Good evening. You are tuning into AWANI Tonight with me, Soraya Mia. PM announces new cabinet, but is there room for reforms? And brought-in-dead cases rising in the country. How do we address it? That's coming up. Prime Minister Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob unveiled his new cabinet, retaining almost all ministers from the previous government. However, no deputy prime minister was appointed. Despite expectations for a leaner cabinet, the size remains the same as Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin's cabinet, with 32 ministers and 38 deputy ministers. 16 ministers retained their ministries while 10 swapped portfolios. Khairi Jamaluddin is now Health Minister, swapping portfolios with Dr. Adham Baba, who is now Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation, while Datuk Sri Hishamuddin Hussein is now the Senior Defence Minister. His previous portfolio as Foreign Affairs will be held by former Communications Minister Datuk Sri Saifuddin Abdullah, while the Communications portfolio is now under Tan Sri Anwar Musa. Datuk Sri Rizal Merican is now Housing and Local Government Minister. The portfolio's former minister, Zuraida Kamaruddin, has been appointed as Minister for Commodities and Plantation Industries. 4 ministers from Tan Sri Muhyiddin's cabinet were dropped, including former minister in the PM's department in charge of religious affairs, Datuk Dr. Zulkifli Al-Bakri, including Muhyiddin, who held the role of Prime Minister. 5 new faces were added to Ismail Sabri's cabinet, which include former Perlis Menteri Besar Datuk Sri Shahidan Kasim as Federal Territories Minister, and former Perak Menteri Besar Datuk Sri Ahmad Faizal Azumu as Youth and Sports Minister. Among the senior positions remain unchanged in Ismail Sabri's cabinet include Tengku Datuk Sri Zafrul Tengku Abdul Aziz, who has been reappointed as Finance Minister, and Datuk Sri Muhammad Azmin Ali, who also retained his post as the Senior Minister and International Trade and Industry Minister. Ismail Sabri declared that all government ministries must prove success of their short-term targets within 100 days. But does the new cabinet, mainly made up of the previous cabinet members, inspire confidence from the public to bring Malaysia out of the pandemic? We speak to political analyst Dr. Chandra Muzaffar to comment on the new lineup.
The cabinet is a transitional cabinet, that's clear, meaning by which it is a cabinet which has been set up for the next few months before the general elections. That's what I mean by a transitional cabinet. And that was clear right from the beginning, that it would fulfill a certain purpose, this transitional goal. And at the same time, one can argue that this cabinet would manifest characteristics that are obvious in a sort of situation of continuity. We should not be talking of the new cabinet as if we have had a revolution or as if we have had a totally different setup, election, new cabinet and break with the past and so on. That is not what happened. So let us be realistic, because I find that a lot of people are commenting on this. They've got the perspective wrong. We have to at least make sure that certain glaring mistakes which were made in the past, which is something that one should expect, happens everywhere, that those glaring mistakes will not be repeated, that people who have obviously failed to live up to minimum expectations, that they will not be kept in the cabinet, in this new cabinet. That's what we can expect realistically. And if we can do that, we would be able to evoke a certain degree of confidence.
Missing from the list of new cabinet members is Deputy Prime Minister. However, Dr. Chandra believes electing a DPM may come later in a coalition government in order not to antagonize any integral members of the cabinet.
Why this is being done, why Transri did it the last time, and why the new Prime Minister, Ismail Sabri, has decided not to have a Deputy Prime Minister. He has opted for the same approach that Transri adopted, which is to have senior ministers. This is something that leaders do when they find that they are in a coalition and you have got fairly important leaders in each of the coalition partners, and you don't want to give greater importance to one of them over the others by making that person Deputy Prime Minister.
Dr. Chandra also commented on the newly appointed Health Minister, Khairi Jamaluddin, and whether he'll be able to perform his task well.
He is one of those ministers who proved that he could do what he was assigned to do. At the beginning, the vaccination program was a little slow for a variety of reasons, a lot of them beyond his control. But after that, it picked up, and now we're doing very well. You know, we have got one of the best vaccination rates in the world. That's an achievement. So he brings that achievement to his office, this new appointment. And I think he will continue to work hard.
Extending this conversation on Consider This Later, we speak to our guests about the challenges that lie ahead for this government. That's coming up right after AWANI Tonight. Malaysia saw an increase in the number of COVID-19 deaths, with 393 deaths recorded yesterday, the highest since the pandemic began. What's more worrying is that 100 of those were brought in dead or never made it to the hospital. And today, another 99 cases were reported to have been brought in dead. What is behind this disconcerting situation? We speak to President of Malaysian Medical Association, Professor Dr. Subramaniam Muniandi.
People who have got comorbid diseases who did not actually bother to check them out. And when it comes to, when they are infected with this virus, some of them, they do not have the resistance to withstand. And what happens is they succumb to it at home before they come. And this virus, as you will know, especially the new variants, are very, very virulent. And they can really take you very easily.
He suggests all Malaysians with or without comorbidities to always be on the alert for symptoms. One way ahead, he said, was to normalize testing.
I mean, this is an infection of high virulence. So if we are not very careful, even if you have no comorbid, it doesn't mean you will not suffer from it. If a person has a comorbid, I mean, the chances are just increases, doubles. It really becomes a point for this virus to attack you very easily. But if you don't have comorbid and still you got it, that means you are not actually checking up when the symptoms are very low. Now, it has been done by the Ministry of Health and by all health personnel that, you know, if you have the smaller symptoms, check it out. Go to CACs. You know, there are many CACs now set up in this country. They are there for the people. They must all go there and they must have themselves checked. Now, to make it easy, even the self-testing kits are available. And therefore, you know, at least they are not accurate. They may not be 100% accurate. If it's positive, it doesn't mean it's really positive. But if there is positivity, at least you know you have to attend to it more carefully. You really have to take some action about it.
We will take a quick break. Stay with us. Welcome back. PETRONAS doubled its net profit in the first half ended June 2021 on the back of higher oil prices and recovering demand. The state oil company posted a profit of 18.9 billion ringgit compared with an after-tax loss of 16.5 billion ringgit in the first half of 2020.
Its revenue increased by 17% to 109.6 billion ringgit from 93.6 billion ringgit in the first half last year, mainly driven by higher favorable prices and sales volume for LNG and petroleum products. President and Group CEO Tengku Muhammad Taufik said PETRONAS will raise its 2021 dividend to the government by 7 billion ringgit to a total 25 billion ringgit. Despite the strong results, he cautioned that an anticipated rise in oil supply and fresh lockdowns triggered by the emergence of COVID-19 variants could hurt the price and demand recovery.
The United States say it is bracing for more attacks after suicide bombers killed 85 people, including 13 U.S. soldiers outside Kabul airport. President Joe Biden, speaking hours after the blast, vowed to hunt down those responsible for the attacks.
To those who carried out this attack, as well as anyone who wishes America harm, know this: we will not forgive. We will not forget. We will hunt you down and make you pay.
The Islamic State group's affiliate in Afghanistan, ISIS-K, has claimed responsibility for the attacks. Witnesses also reported gunfire outside the airport after the blasts. Videos shot by Afghan journalists showed dozens of bodies strewn around the road and canal on the edge of the airport. The U.S. said they are on alert for more attacks by the group, including possibly rockets or vehicle-borne bombs targeting the airport. World leaders condemned the attacks, with U.S. President Joe Biden saying he had asked the Pentagon to develop plans to strike back at the attackers. He also vowed to complete the evacuation of American citizens and allies from Afghanistan. With growing security threat, major U.S. allies announced they have stopped evacuating people from Afghanistan. Germany and Spain said they have completed their mission, while France and Britain is in the final stages of winding down operations in the country. Britain said it will not accept any more people for flights out of Kabul beyond those already inside the airport after it shut its processing center. Defense Minister Ben Wallace said there were around 100 to 150 British nationals still in the country, some of whom were willingly staying. However, around 800 to 1,100 Afghans who worked with Britain and had been eligible to leave the country would not make it through. The United States and coalition partners have evacuated about 100,000 people since August 14, the day before the Taliban entered Kabul. Thailand will ease some of its COVID-19 restrictions in the capital Bangkok and other provinces starting September 1st. This comes even as new infections hover around 20,000 a day. This is part of the government's Living with COVID-19 strategy hinted earlier this week. Top Virus Task Force approved a plan today designed to gradually boost the kingdom's economy crushed by rigid curbs. This includes allowing gatherings of up to 25 people from 5 currently, resume domestic flights, reopen public parks and hair salons in 29 provinces under most stringent measures. Thailand suffered an overwhelmed healthcare system as it battles its worst wave triggered by the virulent Delta variant. Only about 9% of the 70 million population are fully vaccinated at the moment. That is all we have for you on AWANI tonight. Get the latest news updates on COVID-19 and COVID-19 vaccines from astroawani.com and Astro AWANI app. I'm Soraya Mia. We'll see you again.